It's 2025. We took the 5 most popular diets and we ranked them. We actually picked our favorite, broke them all down. So today's episode, we're going to pick the best diet out of the top 5 most popular diets of 2025.
I like this. What is what's the criteria? So what's the thought process on like how we're going to score this? Because there's a lot of different ways that we can look at all these different diets.
Totally.
It has to include sustainability, right?
Totally. So what I picked was we're going to rank each of them on, and of course we're going to break them down, right, what they are, but we're going to rank each of them on fat loss, muscle gain, longevity, and then sustainability. Sustainability meaning how easily or well that we estimate somebody could stick to one of these diets. And they're each going to get, each of those categories, we'll get a score of 1 to 10, 1 being obviously terrible, 4 being best.
Yeah.
And at the end, we're all going to pick our favorite out of one of the 5. So
for us personally, or for people in general?
Just for people in general.
People in general. This should come from our coaching perspective, not our personal experience.
Totally. And again, for people who aren't familiar, like we trained people and coached people for well over 2 decades. So we have a lot of experience with different kinds of diets, different kinds of people. And I do want to preface this by saying that the best diet is typically individualized, okay? There's such a wide variance in how people react and respond to different foods, different ways of eating. And what you're dealing with here isn't just the food, isn't just your physiology, isn't just your psychology and your emotional health around these things. It's all of those things combined, which can make this very individual. So when you're considering how to change your diet, you can't just look at, which one's going to be the best for my goal, but also how am I going to stick to this? Is this what I'm going to enjoy? Does this work with, my personality, that kind of stuff. But based off of our experience, and most of our experience was in training lots of everyday people. The vast majority of our clients, I'd say probably 95% plus of our clients, were just everyday average people. The most common goal being fat loss. The second most common goal being muscle gain and longevity. So that's kind of where we're basing all of this.
Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I did is I went online and I looked up the most searched for and popular diets of the year. At the beginning of the year, the most common thing is that somebody has I think 80%, last time I checked, 80% of people surveyed have a New Year's resolution. And of those people, the vast majority of the most popular New Year's resolutions revolved around health and fitness, weight loss being the most popular one. So by far, the most common New Year's resolution that is affecting 80% of people has to do with getting in better shape, essentially. So this is something that a lot of people are thinking about. So I think it's a timely.
Do you want to list the diets first, and then we'll go into each one? So
let's do that. So Mediterranean diet is the first one. The keto diet would be the second one. The paleo diet would be the third one. Fourth, we have the plant-based diet. And then intermittent fasting. So did I say paleo? I did say paleo.
Yeah,
right?
you did them all.
So intermittent fasting, paleo, plant-based, keto, and Mediterranean. So we'll start with Mediterranean diet. Now that one's gotten quite a lot of media and attention, medical attention, for being very healthy. You're seeing studies around it, data around it. Now just a little side note. Let's break down what they say it is. And then I'll give a little bit of my opinion on what an actual Mediterranean diet looks like, because my family's from the Mediterranean. But the Mediterranean diet, if you were to read up on it, the focus is on vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, whole grains, lots of olive oil. Then they tell you to moderately intake chicken, eggs, cheese, yogurt, red wine, of course, is included. And then they tell you to limit red meat, processed meats, processed sugar. That's kind of like, let's avoid this or limit those types of things.
What's the origin of that? Was it based like, these are the most popular foods in the Mediterranean, and so therefore we're going to make a diet around it? Like how did it get the name the Mediterranean diet?
That's
part of the blue zone?
Yeah, that's a good question, because like I said, my family's from Sicily, and the truth is, they eat a lot of processed meats in particular. They eat a lot of pork. They eat red meat. And they don't eat all whole grains. I mean, pasta is quite common, and so is white rice in certain areas. So I think that this might be what people believe a Mediterranean diet is supposed to be like?
Just because it has olive oil as an emphasis?
yeah.
That's the only thing?
Well, no, I was under the impression that it was like more fish-based, a little bit on poultry, and a little bit on red meat.
Yeah.
It doesn't say no red meat. It's just minimal red meat, minimal poultry, and then mostly fish. That's what I was under the impression Mediterranean kind of looked like.
Yeah, fish will be in there, right?
As the primary source. So I thought primary source was fish for protein, and then came kind of poultry,
meats.
and then red meat.
It's actually mostly vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, whole grains, olive oil, and then moderate would be fish. I forgot to put that in there: chicken, fish, eggs. Some cheeses and red wines.
Oh.
Now this was based off of, remember Ansel Keys came up with this like low fat hypothesis. And he said, people in the Mediterranean live a long time.
Oh, that's where this is coming from. This is mostly low fat, except for your nuts and seeds are probably your
and
main,
olive oil and stuff like that.
That's your only
now,
source.
I mean, and again, I think that this Mediterranean diet was more of like a diet creation. Nonetheless, there's been studies that have been done on this type of eating, and it gets a lot of points in the medical community for things like heart health, cardiovascular health in particular, brain health, and that kind of stuff. Now let's go through the list of things, right? Like what we like about it, what we don't like about it, and then that kind of criteria that we broke down.
Yeah.
So for fat loss, let's talk a little bit about fat loss. I would give this an okay rating. I would say it's probably...
I'd give it a 2 or 3 at least.
Yeah, that's where I would say, right? Like maybe we could do like a 2.5, maybe.
Okay.
Kind of, put
somewhere
it
in the middle.
You keep track of there, Doug?
Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yeah. What do you think, Justin? Same?
Same, yeah. I would give it about 2.5.
What did I have next on there? Was it muscle gain?
Muscle gain.
Muscle gain.
It's going to be low on me. Here's low being 2 or less, because any diet that tells you to limit meat, in my opinion, has to be low scoring for building muscle.
Yes,
because
the protein's not going to be high on this.
Right, because that's already a challenge for the average person. And so if you put my client in a diet that tells you should even limit that more than what they probably already naturally do, that tells me right away as a coach, like it's going to be a huge challenge for us to hit our protein targets. And so any diet that's going to call for or limit you on your choices of protein dense foods automatically is going to get scored a low number for me. So it's 2 for me.
I agree. And we're also going to rate, this is also ranked in the context of each other, right? Compared to the other diets. And I can think of one of the ones that's lower than this in muscle building, but I agree with you. 2 is probably about right, because when you read up on what the Mediterranean diet is supposed to be, even other sources of protein besides red meat, like chicken and eggs and fish, they say moderate.
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I would say it's a 2. So 2.5 for fat loss, 2 for muscle gain. Longevity. All right. What do we think about longevity?
3.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's high.
Yeah, I would say it's a 3 or 4. Limiting processed foods. Now, why am I not
pretty
saying
balanced too for the most part?
it is? Now, why am I saying not a 4 or 5? Why am I saying 3 or 4 instead of 4 or 5? The whole red wine part of it, that there's, that's oversold like crazy. It's
for the resveratrol and all these other...
it's what they're having trouble doing with these red wine, health benefits or whatever, is parsing out the community around red wine, because there's health benefits to that. They're parsing out other healthy habits that these people are engaging in. So I think if you just were to isolate alcohol, regardless of where it comes from,
take out the community aspect of it and the social,
totally. So that's why I'm not like a strong like 4 or 5, but I'd say it's probably 3 or 4, maybe 3.5 for me. Is where I put it.
Yeah, I'll go. I mean,
me.
I'm looking at the last 2, longevity and sustainability, and this is a 3-3 for me. So 3 on longevity, just because I think if you did eat this way, you may not have the most optimal amount of muscle for building a physique or metabolically or whatever like that, but overall health, I think you're going to have pretty solid. Healthy, so good for longevity here, especially since it tells you to limit processed foods, and we know how we feel about stuff like that. That's also why I give it about a 3 sustainability. I think it's sustainable. They're not eliminating entire food groups, which are diets that eliminate entire food groups will always get a low score for me, sustainability. So at least you can still have chicken and fish and stuff like that. So I would put it up there with like a 3 on sustainability and longevity.
Like they could make it work. I would definitely go a little higher in sustainability, maybe 3.5 and then 3 on longevity.
Yeah, I'm with you, Justin, because you can also based off of this, like there's some really tasty, enjoyable dishes
You could, yeah.
that you can make, with these foods here. So
I had decent success with clients that ran this diet. So I've ran this diet with many clients. This was more popular when I first started than it was today. Even so, I find it interesting that this popped up as the top 5 because
you know how diets are.
I know, right? I've heard less of it recently, but maybe it's getting popular again. It was really popular in my early years as a trainer, and so I had clients that ran this. And I remember the first time learning about it and like kind of looking over, and I'm like, okay, this is. I'm okay with this. Like when they would, and I could work with this. You give me all those food, I could put it together. A good diet.
I personally don't have a big problem with this diet, but I do have challenges with the low protein intake.
The red meat part, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you're not going to be so low of protein that's a problem, but you're not going to be optimizing protein for things like muscle gain, performance, or fat loss. So that's really my challenge. But aside from that, it's not too bad. Attention trainers, coaches, online coaches. We have a course that teaches you how to be more successful and more effective with your clients. By the way, our training course is now approved for CEUs by NASM and AFAA. In fact, with NASM, you get 1.9 CEUs. You got to check out our course. Click right here. All right, next is the ketogenic diet. This was, when we started the podcast 10 years ago, this was the diet.
All the rage.
This was
podcast
everywhere.
Devoted just to this.
Yes, and it's still one of the top diets. It's still quite popular. Now I remember when ketogenic style diets became mainstream popular. This was back in, I want to say, the late 90s when Atkins came out with his book. And he essentially was advocating for a ketogenic style diet. And it was really popular in the late 90s because it was so opposite. It was
counter to the low fat movement.
Completely.
Right? Yeah.
In the 80s, I mean, late 70s, 80s, especially, most of the 90s, what was preached was low fat, low fat, low fat, low fat. And out comes this book that says, eat as much fat as you want, just don't eat carbs, and you'll do well. And it was so opposite, and people, got results from it because it's, at the end of the day, a lower calorie diet. It exploded in popularity.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't the ketogenic diet almost exactly the same as the Atkins diet, except for the Atkins diet would advocate for high protein. The ketogenic diet is moderate protein, high fat. Both are high fat. Atkins was also high protein.
Well, depends on who you ask. The original ketogenic diet was low protein.
Yeah, I was going to say very low protein,
low to moderate.
Well, even low. In fact, the original ketogenic diet, which was used for epilepsy and other neurological issues, actually advocated for minimal protein.
Very little.
Yes.
Almost none.
Because they wanted like just enough essential protein. Now, today, nobody does it that way, right? People who do a ketogenic diet, it looks like the Atkins diet.
Yeah.
Where it's like moderate protein.
Yeah, okay.
It's high
Changed
fat.
quite a bit.
It's very high fat. You're eating high, fatty cuts of meat, fish, whole eggs, dairy, cheese, avocados, macadamia nuts, oils, butter. It's very high fat, moderate protein, extremely low carbohydrate. Like people are limited to under 50 grams of carbs. In fact, they would advocate for 0 if you possibly could.
So the irony of this is that this gets a 4 for fat loss for me.
Yeah.
I think this diet is...
I agree. In comparison to all the ones we're about to talk about?
Very effective in that realm. Yeah,
not just what I've experienced with clients, myself personally. I mean, when you eat, it seems to the average person counterintuitive because you're allowed to eat these high fat, high calorie type of foods. But it's amazing how satiating this diet is.
It's hard to eat too many calories.
It is very hard.
Kills your appetite.
You have to work at eating calories.
I'm going to score it a 4 on the fat loss, but a 1 or a 2 on the muscle gain.
I agree with you. I think for muscle gain, based on the rest of the diets that we see here, I'll say a 2. It's hard for muscle gain. Now, I know people are going to bring up studies. You can gain just as much muscle on a ketogenic diet, et cetera, et cetera. Look, here's the deal. In my experience with people that I've worked with, good luck. It is hard. The pumps you don't get great pumps at the gym. Yeah. It's hard to get, to really hit the calories that you need, especially
hard to hit your protein targets with that much fat.
With that much fat, it'll throw you out of ketosis. Remember, a ketogenic diet is named ketogenic because you're supposed to be in ketosis. Eating too much protein will throw you out of ketosis as well. And so it's again, high fat, moderate protein at best.
It's so easy to not eat enough calories, and so it's just, it's tough to stick with that and gain muscle.
Yeah. So I'm with you, Adam. I'd say a 2. I did keto for a long time. And it was really for gut health issues.
You also used to love for the cognitive benefits. I remember
I still do.
Yeah.
I still do. When I am able to get my blood ketones up by being on a ketogenic diet,
it's great for inflammation for me.
Inflammation.
Oh my God. I love this diet when I'm like feeling super achy and like I need a change.
Yeah. So, 100%. Now for longevity, it's still not a great score. Depending on who you're talking about, but on average, I would say it's a 2.5. And here's why. What you find when people go strict keto for too long, over time, you actually start to develop, no joke, insulin sensitivity issues. It's very, very strange. In fact, the most ardent, in the past, some of the most ardent ketogenic diet advocates will now say it's a good idea to throw in some carbs at least once a week, because it's a very strange effect that happens in the body where your body almost doesn't know how to react to carbohydrates, and insulin sensitivity actually gets worse. I remember when I think it was your wife was really, really low carb for a while, and she tested like her blood sugar was high while she was pregnant. Yeah, and they had to. That's why. Yeah, because she had gone for for too long.
Yeah, I'll give it 2.5 on longevity. It's only a 2 for sustainability for me.
Oh God.
Yeah, 2. I'll take 2.5 on longevity, and sustainability is a 1 or a 2.
Yeah.
Anything again on this list, I don't care what diet it is. If it limits an entire food group, it cannot possibly score over a 2.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who's going to stay keto forever unless there's a real medical or health.
And what a terrible way to live. Understandable if it's something medically you have to, and I've had clients where we've had to do that. That makes sense, of course. And not being massively inflamed, and we had people like Kayla Peterson, who's been on there, who has to eat diets like this. Hers is even more strict; it's carnivore only. But for the rest of the world, most people that sign up to do this are doing it to get in shape, and so that's the perspective I'm thinking of when I score this. And I just think that's something that limits you to that. There's too many great foods that are carbohydrate based that you eliminate, which is crazy.
It's hard enough to eat healthy and eat different foods.
Yeah,
you're gonna make it even harder.
It's really hard to select foods in this category.
Oh, when I was keto, and I was keto for, again, this was for gut health issues. I was having a lot of trouble with gut health, and this seemed to be the only thing that controlled symptoms until later I was able to treat SIBO and stuff like that. But I remember I tried to go out to dinner or to lunch, and it sucked. It sucks to go out and eat when you're keto. What are we gonna go eat? Oh, let's go get steak. That's it. We're gonna go steak. It's like nothing else I can eat. Like, is there a place that has meat and vegetables? Because that's all I can eat.
Just olive oil and everything.
Totally sucks. Back to longevity. Also, one other thing I want to comment on. There are polymorphisms. It's not the majority. There's a small minority, but there is a small minority of people, when they eat a high-fat diet like this, it throws their blood lipids all over the place, and they don't get great readings at all. Now, most people are not like this. If you're on a low-calorie ketogenic diet, you tend to see improvements in blood lipids. But some people, their cholesterol numbers, their LDL goes all over the place, and it just isn't good. So that, again, contributes to that 2.5 that we gave it for longevity. All right, next up is a plant-based diet. Now, this runs the gamut from vegan to almost always vegan, but you allow the occasional cheese in there,
the lacto-avo combo,
something like that. But it's plant-based means that like 80 to 90% of your diet is plant. All right, let's talk about where we go with fat loss with this. I think for fat loss, this is terrible. I think weight loss, 2, but you're going to lose muscle on it. Yeah, 2. Yeah, this is going to be maybe a 2 for me.
Yeah. And even so, like the clients that I had that would do this, it maybe initially they see the weight loss, and then we would rebound and come back.
See how much muscle they lost or something like this. Yeah. The protein is low. You're not getting the nutrients from animal sources that you need. Yeah. Animal, sources of food will give you nutrients you don't typically find, or sometimes never find, in plant-based, right? So you'll tend to see vitamin D levels will be too low, iron, certain B vitamins. You get zero creatine in your diet. So when you look at the studies on creatine supplementation and improvements in cognition and health, most people will see a little bit of an improvement. Creatine is just an amazing supplement. Vegans, they get like a measurable
massive boost
in their IQ because they're deficient. Plant-based and vegan type diets are higher than other diets, definitely higher than the ones in this category for nutrient deficiencies. So not great.
Well, to me, talking about in the manner that we're talking about these diets where we're scoring them, I think this really highlights why we've sounded like we're so anti.
Nagged out on it.
Yeah, because to me, both fat loss and muscle gain are under a
Terrible.
2.
Yeah,
There's just it's a
muscle gain is a 1.
There's no benefit there.
Yeah,
it's a 1.
Yeah,
it's the worst diet for
so. That's, and what do we deal with mostly? Most of the people that we help are in pursuit of building muscle or in pursuit of losing body fat. And I just think overall for those 2 main reasons, this is one of the worst diets in both those categories. Yep. And so, it's going to score
by
2
far
on fat loss
of the
and
ones
1
that
on muscle.
And by far of the ones that we have up here, if I had clients on all of these, the plant-based would be the worst one to work with, for sure. Longevity, it's also very low. Now, I know that's not going to sound like
it's not what it's been sold, but
popular media.
Right.
But I'm going to tell you something right now, having worked with many, many, many people who've gone down this path, when they go plant-based, what goes up is their processed food consumption.
Yeah.
They go from eating...
deficiencies get worse.
Yeah, you start... The average person, when you look at the average person's diet, it's already processed food dominant. But the few foods that are whole foods are like milk, eggs, meat, and then they're like, I'm going plant-based. Now they're 100% processed foods. So, and now I also, nutrient deficiencies, and the data on this is clear. People who are vegan typically have higher rates of nutrient deficiencies. And a nutrient deficiency will screw your longevity up faster than almost anything. Mm-hmm. You lack a vitamin or a mineral, you have increased depression, anxiety, cognitive function disorders, you name it, because your body literally can't function properly.
So 2 on longevity.
I would give it a 1.
Oh, a 1 even.
I would give it a 1.
Wow, a 1 even. Okay. Yeah. I'm going to give it a high score, though, for sustainability. I'm going to give it a 3, and here's my argument.
For the
because we've catered so much to vegans. So many restaurants, so many packaged foods, so there's so much marketed to and options that are processed foods for the vegan that I think that for the person who just I just got to choose a vegan food, that is something that makes it more sustainable. Although I don't think it's ideal.
I feel like you're just trying to be nice, because I'm thinking, I'm thinking the average person right now that I know who's gone vegan, their fail rate is 100% for me.
Well, but that's everybody. That's every diet, right? We know that.
It was a little higher. There was only one person I trained ever in my entire career that went plant-based and vegan, stayed that way, but it was for moral reasons.
So I mean, the biggest value of it for me is in a temporary window. I could make some arguments there in terms of like being introduced to, higher dense, vegetable options and like fiber and those aren't on the category. So I don't really know where to. Positive score.
So it doesn't seem like we're just hammering this diet. I'm with Justin.
Exactly. I'm trying to find some. Yeah,
there is. And by the way, there's times where I actually recommended this for a client for a short period of time. Many times it was clients that just neglected to eat a lot of vegetables, and so switching them over and then allowing them to see how they felt, and then teaching them that it wasn't because we eliminated these foods, it's because we introduced these foods that your body also wants and needs. I could see value in doing that. But the sustainability, what I think about sustainability is like their ability to keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like I think the ketogenic diet is really hard to do because there's so minimal choices.
Sure.
Yeah. But there's a lot of vegan choices today. Yeah, you go down the frozen food aisle.
There are, but when you throw a nutrient deficiency,
I feel like
that's longevity argument. Yeah. That's the longevity argument. That's health argument. That's muscle and fat.
But that means people have to drop out.
But the ability for people to keep doing it. And you're getting so much positive reinforcement from television. Yeah. I think sustainability, it scores higher than a lot of these diets. That's my argument.
I would give it a 2 at best. Is what I would give it for sure. Hey, sorry to interrupt. Look, we have a free guide. It's the benefits of eating whole foods. This gives you a shopping list, what foods are best for proteins, fats, carbohydrates. There's recipe samples. It's all based on real, whole, natural foods, and it's a free guide. It's totally free. You can get it if you go to wholefoodsguide.com or by clicking on the link in the description below. All right, last is the paleo diet. Now, paleo is short for Paleolithic. And so this diet, sorry, it's not last, it's the second to last. The paleo diet is based on, and again, this is not really based on real science, but this is just what the diet said.
Right, because you'd be eating, bugs would be in there if it was the real paleo.
We'd eat everything during the Paleolithic, whatever we could get our hands on. But essentially, the theory was you're going to eat what cave people ate, which meant minimally processed. What they really didn't cook or process anything, and so it was relegated to meat, fruit, nuts, seeds, vegetables, potatoes, maybe some hardcore paleo people, not even potatoes, but now I think they all agree potatoes are okay. But there's no grains, no dairy, no processed anything. So it's meat, eggs, again, fish, fruit, nuts, seeds
and
vegetables,
nuts,
potatoes, birds, that kind of. So anything that runs, swims, or walks, fruits, nuts, seeds, vegetables, potatoes.
This is a solid diet.
It's an interesting one.
This is a solid overall diet.
Totally.
I don't think it is ideal or optimal for any one of these categories, but like right away to me, and I don't want to get way ahead because we can go through each one, but it's like a 3 across the board for me.
Yeah.
It's like a 3 across the board. It's decent for fat loss. It's decent for building muscle. It's decent for longevity. It's decent, but it's not the best or great at any of these one things. But I also don't have a lot of problems. I had a lot of clients I had on the paleo diet that were successful.
If you took potatoes out of this, I would give it a lower score. But because potatoes, like the old school original paleo was like no potatoes either.
It was just seeds and nuts.
Yeah, and fruit.
I can't get my energy there.
No,
Exactly.
I mean, my bodybuilder-esque diet looks very paleo-esque.
I mean, if you had like rice.
The rice is the only. I ate a lot of sweet potatoes, yellow potatoes, red potatoes, yams, and then I also used.
I almost eat like
with
this,
the potatoes,
except for the
I'm on board.
Rice.
Except for rice.
Yeah.
I would give this a higher score for muscle gain. Paleo diets tend to be pretty high in protein. Yeah. Paleo people tend to eat.
I could give it a 4. I'll give it a 4.
It's not,
I'll give it a 4.
Not good for endurance, but they found that on CrossFit.
But the potato helps.
That's right.
This is why they changed it.
Okay.
So the original paleo diet didn't include potatoes because the argument was you have to boil them and really cook them, and cave people didn't do that, which again, I don't know where they get their science from. And what they found in CrossFit athletes and other athletes, like fruit doesn't do it for me. I need some starches. Yeah. So they started throwing in potato and sweet potato. And those are great sources.
Great sources.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, since we're on this diet, because I think of all the diets we're going to go through today, this is probably going to win with me as far as the better of scores. This is also such an example of like good coaches and trainers here, like, if I have a client that wants to have some sort of structure, I would build them a diet like this and include things like rice and quinoa.
Yeah, why?
And
then
I have like a beautiful, because I've never met anybody who's had a problem with white rice. I don't think I've ever had a client that couldn't digest white
Easily
rice.
digestible,
Super rare, so good, such a great starchy carbohydrate. Inexpensive, easy to make, like goes with everything. And it's like, and now you've got this incredible diet and it's customized to you and it's like more realistic and more sustainable. So, I mean, this is where all diets go wrong is they limit something and it's like, dude, most people, I mean, how many people have you guys trained that had a problem with white rice?
Yeah, no.
I haven't met one.
Yeah. No, I don't think I had anybody.
Right. It's a staple food that there's no, other than you're trying to fit in this paleo thing.
This plus rice is my diet. Generally how I eat. So great scores across the board. Again, muscle gain of the diets we're going to talk about is one of the best ones. Yeah. Definitely. All right. Last is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting really has one hard rule, which is you eat in a window of 4 to 8 hours. Okay. Now there's lots of different ways to do intermittent fasting. There's the 1 meal a day diet, right? You don't eat all day. You have one big meal. Then there's you can only eat between, noon and 4 or whatever. But so generally speaking, it essentially means you eat within a eating window. And then there's really no other rules essentially with this. And people lose weight on this typically because they eat less calories because they're limited on when they can eat.
I still feel like it should be slowest. They're slower.
Instead of fast.
Dude, I mean, the whole time you're watching the clock and I mean, it's one of those things. It's great for awareness too about your own behaviors. So, I mean, I would definitely score that. And to again, so if this is something that's like an intermittent thing, as it's named, and you're bringing it in and you're doing a regular diet that you have a little bit more flexibility with, like I'm on board. But again, if it's something, I'd probably low on the sustainability for me.
I'm gonna give it a 4 for fat loss, a 2 for muscle gain.
Yeah. I mean, you could sell me on that. I was going to go 3 and 2.
Yeah.
But you could sell me on that.
Because almost everybody initially loses weight on
it just cuts their calories.
Right away.
It's so black and white.
Yeah, it's so black and white. It's so easy to follow. It's like, I don't have a lot of rules. I just have a window. Yeah. That literally reducing people to a window is mind-blowing how much that restricts calories on most people.
I agree with you. Even longevity, I'd give it a pretty good score of a 3.5 because when you give the average person one rule, they tend to be able to stick to it better than when
Simplicity
they have
wins, yeah.
several rules. And here's the deal. Now I know people are like, well, what if they eat garbage? What if they? Yeah, of course that's bad. But when you look at the data, when your calories are low, what you eat within that calorie amount, a lot of the damage is taken care of because the calories are low. So this is why people on intermittent fast, like I remember the 1 meal a day version of this, they used to call it the warrior diet or 1 meal a day diet.
Yep.
People would eat the worst food. They'd be like, oh my God, I'm going to eat a giant pizza plus a bowl of cereal. Plus,
Muscle gain is one,
and they would have all these great benefits with their blood lipids and all that stuff. Muscle gain's got to be low. Yeah. Good luck trying to build muscle in a 4 hour.
It's hard all day. It's hard when you have all day.
You're not going to squeeze all that protein in.
And so
sustainability, you know.
I'm flip-flopped on the way you're describing longevity, because I think sustainability is for all the reasons you said. Because it's simple, they can just follow a rule. Longevity to me is like,
just
health. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is when your calories are low, as fasting, one rule makes you just eat low calories, then you tend to see health positives. Like you can eat a crappy amount of like crappy food, but eat low calorie, and you'll see benefits across the board. Generally.
But then you start to see deficiencies after a while.
Yeah.
And so I can't give it a 3.5, maybe a 3.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe a 3 on that.
Okay.
For the longevity.
And then sustainability, this is a tough one because it's one rule, and so people like it as a result, and it's more flexible in terms of what you can eat. So that kind of makes me want to give it like a 3. For sustainability.
Yeah. No, I would have done 2 on longevity, 3 on sustainability, but you can push me to
I'm kind of with you on that. I think it has like a shelf life in terms of like, the longevity of it.
If we had,
it's easy to do.
If we had a category for spiritual health, which most people don't look at diets that way, fasting is the best because there is
that's what it's based off.
That's what it's made for. Yeah. It's made for that. So. Now, of the diets, of the 5 that we went through, I think we're probably all in agreement that paleo, as described, was the best one.
Looks the best.
If I had to give a diet, which I never did with my clients, I did in the early days when I was dumb, but really the diets became very individualized.
Well, even if you said you can modify it, I think that makes a lot of sense to use as your scaffolding.
I think it's all of us are the closest to that, even personally.
Yes.
So
not only throw rice in there, it's
not only this is what we probably recommended or utilize with our own clients. It's how we personally eat is something. Now, I think it is important to discuss this since we're here with this. It's just, I don't think any of us agree on any diets.
No.
I think that what you
especially for longevity, I give them all low scores.
So what I used to like to do with clients is I used to like to take them through all of these things.
Yeah, use a lot of information.
And I used to love to teach them. And then I would get feedback from them, what they felt, what they noticed, what they liked, what they didn't like, and then from that we would create what I thought was the best diet for them. Right? It's like they would tell me, oh man, Adam, when I was on vegan, my energy felt better. This felt better. My digestion. Okay, well, it's probably the fiber and the greens we were getting. So let's make sure we go after stuff like that. Man, but when we were doing paleo, I felt like I was just putting on muscle and I was building. Oh, well, that was because of all that high protein. We got to make sure we do that. I was like, yeah, but then when I was running that one, I felt like I had the Mediterranean, I had more energy. Well, yeah, that's because we're getting way more carbohydrates and stuff that were in there. So it's like teaching the client what they're noticing and feeling from each diet and why they have worked or why they have so much popularity, and then learning how to build that around the individual is really what's going to be sustainable. 100%. Otherwise, almost all diets fail.
That's right. Almost all diets fall in that category of 80% of people fall off after a few months. The January special is here. We have 4 workout program bundles: the new to weightlifting bundle, the Body Transformation Bundle, the New Year Extreme Intensity Bundle, and the Body Transformation Bundle 2.0. Every single one of those workout program bundles is $300 off retail. It's a massive sale. If you're interested, go to mapsjanuary.com. All right, back to the show.
Our first question is, what is the worst diet you have ever heard of?
Okay,
the worst. There's a lot of bad ones.
There's a lot of bad ones.
There's the cabbage diet. There's the pizza diet.
Okay, so
the celery diet.
Is
there a cookie diet?
Cookie diet. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Okay, now let me ask you guys this. So let's rephrase this. What's the worst diet you've actually ever had to try to work with? Where a client brought? Because I've never had a client with a cabbage diet or like that. Vegan was up
Vegan's
there.
the hardest.
Always
been the hardest.
You know what I used to hate? I used to hate this because we all managed the same gym at different times over there, the 24 Fitness in South San Jose. And across the street's the hospital.
Oh,
and
yes, I know what you're saying. The liquid only.
Yes,
people.
Dude. I would get people coming in who need to lose weight, and the doctor And they weren't even good shakes.
No.
You would look at the ingredients; they were terrible. I had better stuff in my
sucralose
gym.
and everything in there. Yeah.
It was garbage, and it was literally the doctor's like, "Oh, I just drink this all day long. That's how I'm gonna lose weight." And I had to work with these clients, and my trainers had to work with these people.
Yeah.
I'm battling their doctors,
100%.
which you never want to do as a trainer. That was the worst I ever had to work with.
Yeah, I get behind that. I think the reason why that doesn't beat vegan for me still is because those people were told what to do. Their doctors telling them, they had the shakes and the bars.
Yeah.
It's what we had to work with. It was like I had to, my job then at that point was they're going to follow what the doctor's saying nutrition wise. I got to go just
do the
train.
exercise.
When I used to get clients that would tell me, "Hey, I'm vegan. I will only eat these things,"
it out.
and then I got to figure it out. And then what about this? No, don't eat that. What about no? Won't eat that. Oh, don't like
You're
that.
building a meal plan.
Oh my God! It's just that was so difficult for me, and that's by choice, right? Those people are choosing that diet. What you're being told by your doctor, like, yeah, that presents its own challenges and sucks. So to me, vegan diet is the worst to work with.
Do I even need to be on a diet to lose weight?
No, but you do need to
reduce calories.
Change your diet typically to lose weight.
Yeah, right.
But you don't need to be on a diet. I mean, we just talked about a bunch of popular diets, but the truth is, if you start to make small changes and move towards better health, eating more protein, avoiding heavily processed foods, paying attention to how food affects your digestion, not eating because you're stressed or because you're anxious or because whatever, but rather just because you're actually hungry. Like if you start to make small changes over time, then you'll have a sustainable, individualized style diet. And also consider this, whatever works for you now may not work for you all the time because your body changes, your lifestyle changes, and circumstances change. So learning these things about yourself, super important.
I want to create a diet called the Eat More diet. And the way it works is that, and it's like I started to teach my clients later on, which is I would track their food and see what they were doing on normal, not being good. Show me your Snickers bars and ice cream and McDonald's, all the above. And then from there, the way I would coach them is I would add to their diet. I would go after food. So I would love to write a diet that's called like the Eat More diet. And it's based off of assessing where you're at and then seeing, oh, you undereat fiber, go eat more of this. Oh, you don't get enough protein, go eat more of this. And teaching people to go after the foods that their body needs nutritionally or to support whatever their goal is, whether it's performance or building muscle, and teach them how to go after nutritious foods that are supporting their goals versus diets that are which are traditionally centered around restricting and taking away.
Next question. What's just one thing I can do with my diet that will have a really big impact?
Okay, so
Processed
historically, this just the one thing that I could have my clients do that had the most benefit, the biggest impact would be just avoid heavily processed foods. Avoid ultra processed foods, foods that are in boxes and wrappers, lots of ingredients. Stick to whole natural foods. And let's just start there. And on average, my clients would lose between 10 to 15 pounds of body fat from that alone. Literally just that alone. And then we would do other things afterwards. But just doing that alone, it worked. And they would always come to me and say, I don't know why I'm losing weight. I feel like I'm eating so much food. And that's because those ultra-processed foods that make you overeat, when you cut them out, you automatically cut your calories. You automatically increase things like protein intake just from doing that alone.
Yeah, I would either say that or high protein.
Yeah.
Because people going after high protein, it's really hard to overeat when you're hitting high protein foods. So, but the processed foods, I think we're all on the same page.
Yeah,
eliminating that is like
the biggest factor,
and it gives them still lots of flexibility on what they can choose to eat and everything. Just eliminating the processed foods, but that or go after high protein. Those two things tend to be number one, number two tips for me. In fact,
100%.
Those two tips by themselves and no other tips
handle most of everything.
Will handle like 80 to 90% of your results for most people.
All right, I know you liked that episode. If you did, check this one out. 30% body fat. For men, this is way too high. This is actually a bit high for women as well. So in today's episode, we're talking about how you can go from 30 to 10. What is 10% body fat? This is when you have a visible six-pack. Can you go from 30 to 10%? Yes, it's possible, but not if you guess along the way. So we're going to talk about how you can do that in today's episode.
Now, there's a huge range, right, of like body types.
Yes.
Some people can run a little bit heavier or a little bit higher body.